A teacher walks out of a Christmas gathering on a cold December night, gets into a blue Toyota Camry, and drives off into the dark. He is expected back in his classroom in just a few days. His students are waiting for him. His family is waiting for him. And then he is simply gone. No phone calls. No sightings. No body. For 4 long months, the only trace of him is a single ping from a license plate reader on a lonely highway near the state line, recorded at 23 minutes past 11 at night. After that, nothing. Where do you even begin to look for a man who vanished into thin air, when the last thing the world knows about him is the direction his car was pointed? Before we go any further, I want you to do something for me. Type in the comments right now where you are watching from, and what time it is where you are at this exact moment. A city, a country, the hour on your clock. Because somewhere out there, on a night just like the one you are sitting through right now, a man got into his car for the last time, and no one ever saw him alive again. Let us see how far this story reaches tonight. This is the Cold Case Archive. And this is the disappearance of Carlton Keyon Osborn. If stories like this one matter to you, the cases that get a few headlines and then fade while a family is left waiting, do me one favor before we begin. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. This channel exists to keep these names from being forgotten, and every single subscriber helps these stories reach the people who might one day hold a missing piece. Now, let us go back to the beginning. To understand how a man disappears from a town this small, you first have to understand the town itself. Lake Providence sits in the far northeast corner of Louisiana, in East Carroll Parish, pressed up against the Mississippi River and the Arkansas state line. It is the kind of place where the roads run straight through farmland and the water is never far away. There are bayous and oxbow lakes and drainage canals threaded through the whole region, so much water that, as you will see, it would become the very thing that swallowed this case for months. It is a community of just a few thousand people. The kind of town where a school teacher is not an anonymous face. He is somebody everyone knows. Carlton Osborn was 44 years old. To the people closest to him, he was not Carlton. He was Keyon. He taught at Lake Providence Elementary, and by every account that has surfaced, he was the sort of teacher who left a mark. A colleague. A friend. A familiar face in the hallways who showed up, year after year, for children who needed someone steady in their lives. He was described by the East Carroll Parish Sheriff's Office as a black male with brown eyes, standing about 5 feet 9 inches tall, weighing around 150 pounds. He lived in town, on Hanford Street. And he drove a blue 2014 Toyota Camry. Remember that car? That ordinary, 4-door, blue sedan is going to sit at the center of everything that follows. It is the last thread connecting Keyon Osborn to the world, and it will go missing right alongside him. In the middle of December of 2025, Keyon attended a Christmas gathering. It was the holiday season. School was letting out for the Christmas break. There was nothing about that night that should have been the end of anything. He was a man with a job to return to, a family that loved him, a community that counted on him. The best timeline available places his last confirmed sighting on or around the 18th of December. After that, the record of his life goes quiet, except for the cold electronic eyes mounted along the highways. Here is where the first chill sets in. In the days after Keyon was last seen, his movements were not tracked by witnesses or phone calls. They were tracked by cameras positioned along highways and intersections that photograph passing plates and log the time. They do not lie, and they do not forget. And in this case, they would become the single most important record of where Keyon Osborn went. The readers caught his blue Camry moving north. Up through the area around Oak Grove. And then, the final reading. The last time any machine, any camera, any system on Earth recorded the existence of that car. It came at 23 minutes past 11 at night, on the 18th of December, up near the state line on Highway 65. And then the trail simply stopped. Think about what that means. A man and his car traveling north, late at night, in the dark, in the cold. The very last data point in his entire disappearance is a license plate reading on a remote stretch of highway, almost at the border, just before midnight. After that final flash of a camera, Carlton Keon Osborn drove out of the reach of every recording device in the world, and he never came back into it. When his students returned from Christmas break in the new year, their teacher was not there. The desk was empty. And it stayed empty. In early January, the East Carroll Parish Sheriff's Office made it official. They put out a public plea, asking anyone with information to come forward. A man was missing. A teacher. They released his description, his vehicle, his last known details, and asked the community to help bring him home. And here is the detail that makes this case so strange, and so important. Early in the investigation, authorities did not believe Keyon had vanished into the waters around his hometown. They had reason to believe he may have traveled hundreds of miles away, into the Atlanta, Georgia area. That was the working theory. That the trail leading north was the start of a longer journey out of state. So picture the situation. Officially, the search is pointed toward another state entirely. But back home in Lake Providence, there were people who could not shake the feeling that the answer was much, much closer. And the geography of that town gave them a terrible suspicion. All that water. All those canals and ponds and bayous. A car traveling at night, on dark roads, with water on nearly every side. What if Keyon had never made it out of state at all? If you are still with me at this point in the story, I want you to do something. Drop a comment right now that simply says, "I'm still here." Just those 3 words. Let us see who is truly following this case all the way through, because what happens next is the part that almost no one expects. Type it now, and then stay with me, because the search that followed would turn this quiet town inside out. This is where a different kind of searcher enters the story. When official resources are stretched thin and a case goes cold, sometimes the people who refuse to give up are not police at all. They are volunteers. In recent years, a remarkable phenomenon has spread across the country. Civilian dive teams, ordinary people with sonar equipment and boats and a stubborn refusal to let families go without answers, traveling from town to town, body of water to body of water, searching for the missing. For free. Asking nothing in return except the chance to bring someone home. One of these teams came to Lake Providence. Their theory was the one the official investigation had not centered on. The water. They believed that if Keyon's car had gone off a dark road on that December night, it could be sitting at the bottom of one of the countless ponds, canals, or bayous that surround the town. And so they did something painstaking and methodical. They built a map. They marked the school where Keyon worked, where he was last connected to his daily life. They marked his home, less than a mile away. They marked the last license plate reading up near the state line. And then they drew a search radius, 5 miles wide, around the heart of town, and they began to check off every single body of water inside it, one at a time. It is hard to overstate how grim and how careful this work is. They started with 3 ponds directly behind the school. Now, these were not scenic lakes. They were sewage treatment ponds. Wastewater. The kind of place no one wants to put their hands, let alone their whole body. But the team measured each one anyway, because the only thing that matters in a search like this is depth. A pond that is only 2 feet deep cannot hide a Toyota Camry. A pond that is 7 feet deep absolutely can. The first pond came back at 2.5 feet. Too shallow. As one of the searchers put it, that was good news and bad news at the same time. Bad news, because it was not deep enough to be the answer they were looking for, and every shallow pond meant Keyon was still out there somewhere. But good news, because it meant no one had to climb down into the wastewater that day. They moved to the next. 7 feet. Then another. 6.5, 7.5 feet deep. Plenty deep enough to hide a car. So into the water the sonar went, scanning the murky bottom, holding their breath, hoping and dreading in the same heartbeat that they would see the outline of a blue sedan on the screen. Nothing. They dragged their equipment from one pond to the next. They searched a dirt boat ramp out by the seed mill, near where the tugboats sat on the river. Too shallow, too muddy, the bottom visible from the surface. No car could have made it out there. They drove the levees. They checked hidden ponds owned by the city, only to find locked gates and private property signs blocking the way. One after another, the locations on their map got marked off in red. Checked. Cleared. Empty. You can feel the weight of it building in their own words. At one point, one of the searchers says it plainly to a local man riding along with them. "We're running out of locations, Tyson. Running out of locations to check for him." And in another quiet, aching moment, alone with the dark water, one of them simply speaks to the missing man as if he might somehow hear. "Come on, Keon. Where are you?" That is the sound of a search reaching its limit. Pond after pond, canal after canal, levee after levee. The team pushed all the way toward the big river itself, fighting through soft mud and gated roads, asking the same hard question over and over. Could a Toyota Camry even make it down here? Would the road hold the weight? Is there any way a car ends up in this water? And the answer, location after location, kept coming back the same. No. Not here. Not here either. Not here. The water, it seemed, was not going to give up Keon Osborn. Because Keon Osborn was not in the water. For 4 months, that is where the case sat. A man gone. A car gone. A family putting forth effort every single day, as one relative would later say, just to find some way to bring him home. A community holding its breath. Searchers crossing off every pond and canal for miles, and finding nothing but mud and wastewater and dead ends. And then, in the middle of April of 2026, the answer finally came. But it did not come from the water at all. It came from the side of a highway. On the 17th of April, the East Carroll Parish Sheriff's Office announced that Keon's vehicle had been found. Not submerged in a pond. Not at the bottom of a bayou. Not hundreds of miles away in Georgia. The blue Toyota Camry was discovered on the side of the highway, sitting in a roadside ditch. And it bore signs of fire damage. The car had burned. And inside that vehicle, investigators found skeletal remains. Sit with the cruelty of that for a moment. For 4 months, a dedicated team had dragged sonar through sewage ponds and muddy canals, climbing into water no one should ever have to touch, scanning the dark for the outline of that exact car. The official theory had pointed to another state. The volunteer theory had pointed to the water. And the whole time, the answer was sitting in a ditch beside a road, scorched and silent, in plain reach of the very community that had been searching everywhere else. The car everyone was looking for in the deep water had been on dry land all along. I have to be very careful and very honest with you here, because this case is not over, and the people involved are real. As of the most recent information available, Louisiana State Police had not yet officially confirmed the identity of the remains found inside that car. The forensic process of identification takes time, and at the time this story was being told, that confirmation had not come. But the people closest to Keon already understood what they were facing. His cousin, Kenya Burks, was there at the scene when the car was pulled from the ditch. Her words capture the impossible place this family now stands in. She said that while they could not know for certain it was Keon, within reason, they could assume the remains belonged to him. And then she said something that holds all the grief and all the exhaustion of those 4 long months in a single breath. She said she was sad, but that she found some relief in knowing her family could finally get closure. Knowing they could lay him to rest at last. The school he gave so much of his life to mourned him as well. The East Carroll Parish Superintendent released a statement, calling Keon a cherished member of their professional family, a beloved colleague and teacher whose impact as an educator and a friend had left a lasting mark on everyone who knew him. And that is where this case stands today. A teacher who walked out into a December night and never came home. A car tracked north toward the state line by the cold eyes of highway cameras, then gone for 4 months. A community and a volunteer dive team who searched every body of water for miles, only to learn that the answer had never been in the water at all. A vehicle found burned in a roadside ditch, with remains inside that a grieving family believes, but has not yet been told for certain, belonged to the man they loved. Why was the car so far from where the search was focused? How did it come to rest in that ditch? And what caused the fire that consumed it? Those questions do not yet have answers that authorities have confirmed. The investigation continues. And until it closes, the full truth of what happened to Carlton Keyon Osborn on that cold December night remains, for now, unknown. This is the part of every story where I ask one thing of you, and I mean it from the bottom of my heart. If this video moved you, if Keyon's name now means something to you that it did not 20 minutes ago, then help me make sure he is not forgotten. Like this video, because every like pushes this case in front of more people, and somewhere out there, someone may know something. Leave a comment with your thoughts, your questions, or simply a word for Keyon's family, because they may one day read it. And if you have not yet, subscribe to the Cold Case Archive and turn on notifications, so that the next time a name is at risk of fading into silence, you are here to help us keep it alive. These stories are not entertainment. They are people. They are families still waiting by the phone, still putting forth effort every single day, just as Keyon's family did, to bring someone home. Keyon Osborn was a teacher. A colleague. A friend. A man whose absence left an empty desk in a grieving town. He deserved to be found. He deserved answers. And he deserves to be remembered. I am, as always, grateful you stayed until the end. Until the next case, take care of yourself, and take care of each other. This has been the Cold Case Archive.